Lively is doing everything in her power to, as she puts it, keep documents falling into the wrong.
Where she came off like an a-hole. So I did believe it. But I definitely am on team.
You know, Blake was threatening, months before the New York Times thing happened. She was constantly threatening different things. At one point she's threatening, I'm not going to promote this movie if I don't get my way on this. I will go to my friends at the New York Times. I will do these. She has a relationship with this writer, Megan Twohey, and the team behind this whole article. The metadata shows that they were working on it months before it actually came out. They took this civil complaint and they basically just printed all of Blake's stuff, the New York Times. The fact it hit Baldoni like, what?
Could the world's favorite Hollywood couple be on the brink of exposing more secrets than anyone ever imagined? Whispers of a high-stakes courtroom battle have surfaced, centering on Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, and actor-director Justin Baldoni. At first glance, it seems unbelievable. America's sweetheart couple locked in a legal fight that could drag in A-list friends, hush-hush text messages, and private security details. Yet here we are, looking at court documents, protective orders, and a chorus of accusations that paint an entirely different picture than the glossy headlines we're used to. In a matter of months, the public discourse has shifted from admiring Lively's glamorous image to wondering if she and her husband have orchestrated behind-the-scenes maneuvers to protect themselves at all costs. From secret subpoenas to claims of a smear campaign, it's turning into a labyrinth of conflicting stories. Could there really be a hidden side to this famously wholesome duo? Or is Justin Baldoni just another person fighting for a shred of truth in an industry that thrives on spin? However this unfolds, the case has already pulled in more high-profile figures than we ever expected. Publicists, rumored ex-CIA staff, and even friends like Taylor Swift hovering at the edges. The stakes are sky high and the tension is tangible. By the time we reach the end of this saga, there's a strong chance no one's reputation will remain unscathed. But how did it all start? And why is everyone from tabloid writers to seasoned courtroom observers calling this one of the most explosive showdowns Hollywood has seen in years? Let's begin by tracing the origins of the legal storm, then peel back layer after layer until we understand exactly why these once beloved stars and their associates are scrambling to keep certain information buried. Brace yourself. This isn't just another run-of-the-mill celebrity lawsuit. It's a deep dive into the forces that rule Hollywood behind the scenes, where reputation, fortunes, and fame hang in the balance. Not long ago, if you heard Blake Lively's name, you might picture designer gowns, red carpet smiles, and a seemingly perfect marriage to Ryan Reynolds. But beneath that polished exterior, an unexpected legal confrontation has taken center stage. The main spark? A feud with Justin Baldoni, known for his acting and directorial projects, who found himself in a standoff with Lively's team over unsettling allegations. In the beginning, the rumor mill churned with vague hints of inappropriate behavior swirling around Baldoni. Suddenly, social media posts hinted that Lively had lodged serious accusations of sexual misconduct. It wasn't clear how Ryan Reynolds factored in, but people wondered, was he simply backing his wife, or was there a coordinated strategy at play? The real bombshell came when Baldoni fired back with a detailed countersuit, spanning more than 200 pages, claiming he had proof that Lively's accusations were not only unfounded, but potentially part of a broader campaign to undermine his credibility. He introduced text messages, witness statements, and contracts that, in his view, pointed to a smear effort orchestrated by Lively's circle. That's when Ryan's name began cropping up more frequently in legal documents. Baldoni insisted that the power couple might be leveraging Hollywood connections to stifle the truth, but the Lively-Reynolds camp went on full offense. They slapped Baldoni with additional claims, pointing the finger right back at him. Sides were drawn. Team Blake insisted that Baldoni was lashing out to hide his guilt, while Team Justin labeled Blake's lawsuit as little more than a PR stunt to shield her from damaging revelations. Hidden in the legal motions were mentions of alleged coordination with top-tier publicists, talk show hosts, and hush-hush special consultants, all seemingly aimed at controlling the narrative. Then came the revelations about phone record subpoenas and protective orders, signs that this wasn't just a petty spat, but a fight with massive reputational stakes. Was the beloved Hollywood image of Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds all smoke and mirrors? In the swirl of legal drama, it seemed plausible. With the first sparks of this lawsuit fanned into a raging fire, we move on to see just how far each side is willing to go to keep or uncover Hollywood's hidden truths. When celebrity disputes hit hit the courts, lawyers often use protective orders to guard sensitive details. But with Blake Lively, the request wasn't just standard, it was extraordinary. She wanted an attorney's eyes-only provision. That phrase alone sent shockwaves through legal circles. Typically, a protective order can seal private material from public view, but Lively's request aimed to keep even the other parties in the case from reviewing key evidence. This was no small request. According to Baldoni's team, attorney's eyes only would mean that if Lively submitted messages she'd exchanged with, say, Taylor Swift or her co-stars, Justin Baldoni himself wouldn't be permitted to see them, only lawyers could. With stakes as high as they were, Baldoni argued he had a right to know and review any evidence used against him. Lively's argument? She insisted that her personal security measures, trade secrets, and other highly sensitive information needed extra protection. She and Ryan Reynolds were, after all, giant names in the industry with multi-million-dollar deals and intellectual property strategies to safeguard. According to her team, releasing private communication, even to the opposing party, could endanger not only their reputations, but also their livelihood. Yet skeptics couldn't help but raise eyebrows. To them, it felt like Lively was taking advantage of her star power to bend the legal system in her favor. As one observer noted, it's typical for big stars to demand privacy, but completely walling off certain evidence was almost unprecedented. Why did she fear those messages falling into the wrong hands if there was nothing damning there? Baldoni's legal counsel hammered that point, stating that the existing protective order, the court's standard model version, was sufficient to shield personal data. They questioned whether Lively's request was more about controlling the public narrative than about legitimate confidentiality concerns. Their stance was that justice should remain as transparent as possible, especially given the intense public interest in the case. And the interest was no joke. Tabloids, social media influencers, and mainstream news outlets were all watching. Each new filing in the case seemed to spark another avalanche of speculation. Meanwhile, the tension between Lively's claims of needing protection and Baldoni's demands for fairness set the stage for one of the most contentious privacy battles in recent Hollywood history. Soon, the issue escalated beyond just text messages. Blake Lively's legal team demanded extensive phone records, not just from Baldoni, but from other associated individuals and PR agencies. Some of the subpoenas allegedly covered a period that predated the timeline of the smear campaign by months, even years. That triggered a heated debate. If Lively claimed the negative press only started around August 2024, why did she need phone logs from 2022 and 2023? A federal judge weighed in, calling the request overly broad and disproportionate to the case at hand. It didn't help that Lively offered no clear plan on how to separate relevant phone data from irrelevant personal calls to, say, a doctor or a family member. At this stage, Justin Baldoni's team was quick to point out the potential for abuse. Gathering phone logs and text histories from so far back, in their view, could be a strategic move to fish for anything that might harm Baldoni's reputation. They also highlighted the risk to third parties, co-workers, friends, or even random acquaintances, whose phone numbers might show up in the logs. The judge sided with the principle of privacy, curtailing Lively's sweeping demands. And that fed another layer of suspicion. Was Blake trying to dig up dirt in a panic? Or was her side genuinely searching for evidence of a behind-the-scenes plot to sabotage her career? Critics of the actress said it was an obvious power play, leveraging her fame to gather private information. Supporters insisted that when your reputation is under attack, you have no choice but to go all in to defend yourself. Still, the court's stance was clear. Any party in the case who demanded personal data would need to show precisely how it related to the central accusations. Vague justifications wouldn't cut it. This was a decisive moment, as it reminded both sides that the judge had no intention of letting celebrity privilege overshadow legal fairness. While phone record disputes might sound dry, in Hollywood they can unearth bombshell revelations. Who texted whom and when often proves or disproves major claims. But to get to that point, a judge must decide if the claims are even worth investigating. And when this judge called out Blake Lively for overreach, it fueled speculation that her entire case might be built on shaky ground. Amid all the subpoenas, motions, and protective orders, one phrase kept coming up again and again: smear campaign. Blake Lively's attorneys allege that Justin Baldoni orchestrated a wave of negativity to destroy her public image and sabotage her involvement in high-profile projects, most notably the adaptation of It Ends With Us. According to Lively, Baldoni not only spread rumors of her being difficult on set, but also implied deeper, more troubling personal flaws. She contends that these leaks made their way to outlets, YouTubers, and various social media influencers. The result? A narrative shift that painted her as controlling, manipulative, or out of touch, an image far from the carefully curated persona fans had grown to love. Baldoni, of course, denies all of it. He insists that any negative coverage came from Lively's own actions and comments. In fact, he claims the opposite is true, that Lively used her own PR machine to discredit him under the guise of sexual harassment allegations. The countersuit he filed is a meticulously documented dossier featuring text conversations, email chains, and witness statements, most of which remain sealed under the existing protective order. The tension between these opposing stories ramped up when Lively's lawyer implied that other celebrities, Taylor Swift in particular, could be embroiled in the swirl of messages. A-listers might have knowledge of Lively's side of the story, or might even factor into certain behind-the-scenes events. Suddenly, fans and casual observers alike realized this case could entangle more individuals than previously thought. And so the question stands, is there really a grand conspiracy to tear down Lively's image? Or is that just a convenient way to deflect attention from troubling allegations against her and Ryan Reynolds? The notion of a hidden puppet master pulling the strings behind talk show drama and carefully timed tabloid leaks is compelling, and it's exactly the kind of storyline that keeps people glued to every twist. If there's one lesson to be learned here, it's that Hollywood thrives on shaping public perception. Whether it's through social media, high-profile interviews, or silent maneuvers in the court system, the race to control the narrative is relentless. The only question is, who can outrun the other, and which secrets will leak before the finish line? While the courts wrestled with motions and protective orders, an entirely different battle was unfolding online. Several YouTubers, Instagram personalities, and independent journalists who dared to dig into the Lively Baldoni drama started noticing strange activity on their channels. Some saw videos mysteriously demonetized or shadowed in search rankings. Others discovered that their audio would mute mid-sentence, coincidentally right when they mentioned Blake Lively's name. In interviews across different platforms, creators voiced suspicions that a hush-hush PR machine was at work. One noted, they had spoken out against celebrities before, on topics like social justice and world events, without ever facing this level of suppression. But once they touched the Blake Lively legal fiasco, they suddenly found themselves in Instagram jail, or facing unusual content restrictions. The parallels to another high-profile trial, Depp versus Heard, were impossible to ignore. During that case, channels covering the story also reported demonetization, hidden videos, or disclaimers that popped up whenever they mentioned certain keywords. In the Lively Baldoni context, it seemed amplified by the alleged presence of Nick Shapiro, an ex-CIA individual rumored to be advising Blake's team. Creators speculated that someone was running interference, possibly to stifle coverage that cast the actress in a negative light. On top of that, big-name publications started contacting these YouTubers, asking prying questions about their earnings and coverage choices. Some felt the subtext was clear. If you're making money off commentary, you might be portrayed as a vulture profiting from scandal. A few believed this was an orchestrated attempt to shame or discredit them, discouraging deeper investigation into the story. The idea of silencing might sound dramatic, but for these content creators, it had real consequences. Videos weren't being recommended to their audiences, posts went missing, and the overall engagement took a nosedive. While no one could definitively prove it was the work of Lively's camp, the timing and pattern felt far from coincidental. This online pushback only fueled more curiosity about how far the actress's legal team would go to preserve her image. If the lawsuit was truly a matter of justice, why muzzle independent media voices? Though the answers remain elusive, one thing is certain. The digital battlefield has become nearly as important as the courtroom itself, with each side trying to tip the balance of public opinion in their favor. By now, it's clear this isn't just about Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively. It's a cautionary tale about how Hollywood wages PR wars. When accusations surface, be they about misconduct, defamation, or shady behind-the-scenes deals, powerful figures often deploy an army of strategists to control the fallout. This case has thrust publicists like Leslie Sloan into the spotlight. She's been accused of helping orchestrate parts of the alleged smear or defamation efforts. A request was made to remove her from Baldoni's lawsuit entirely. But Justin's team refused, pointing to evidence they claim to have that directly implicates her in stirring negative media narratives. According to them, it goes beyond mere opinions or idle gossip. These are direct statements that could damage reputations if proven false. Meanwhile, Ryan Reynolds' role remains somewhat murky in official filings, but rumors persist that he's deeply involved behind closed doors. After all, any tarnish on Lively's name inevitably affects him as well. Observers wonder if Reynolds, known for clever social media banter and savvy brand deals, might be using his influence to keep the public in the dark. A recurring theme in the proceedings is the claim that celebrities believe they deserve a different law. Baldoni's team has explicitly argued that Lively and Reynolds are asking for special rules to shield them from standard legal scrutiny. Rules that everyday people wouldn't receive in a typical civil case. For instance, the desire for an attorney's eyes-only protective order is seen by some as a textbook example of celebrity privilege. From a distance, the entire ordeal reveals an unsettling dynamic. If you're famous and have the resources to hire top-notch attorneys, crisis managers, and, possibly, ex-CIA consultants, you can shape the narrative to a degree that average individuals can't. If you don't, you risk being drowned out by a flurry of well-funded counter-allegations. The federal judge overseeing the lawsuit seems committed to transparency. Court observers say he's indicated a willingness to unseal documents, reminding everyone that justice should be seen and not hidden behind NDAs or sealed exhibits, especially in a dispute that has sparked so much public intrigue. This stance has left both camps on edge. If the judge decides that the public has a right to know, the spotlight on this case could burn even brighter. Each legal battle, over phone logs, protective orders, or alleged conspiracies, adds to the mounting tension. Court dates drag on, and each side tries to spin the narrative. Beyond the immediate circle of Lively, Reynolds, and Baldoni, an entire constellation of publicists, co-stars, and friends could get caught in the crossfire. Some might be called as witnesses. Others could see their private correspondences thrust into the spotlight. What happens if Lively fails to secure the ironclad secrecy she's requested? The worst-case scenario, a trove of text messages and emails, emerges, revealing embarrassing or contradictory statements that shatter her public image. The halo of perfection could slip if messages prove a pattern of manipulation or strategic smearing. On the other side, if Baldoni's countersuit collapses, he risks being labeled a liar or opportunist. His entire public identity, previously anchored by philanthropic work and feel-good media projects, could crumble under accusations of misconduct or knowingly harming Lively's reputation. Both outcomes could have lasting repercussions, not just for these individuals, but for the broader Hollywood community. Industry insiders note that if courts strongly rebuke the couple's attempts to block evidence, it may discourage other celebrities from trying similarly aggressive tactics in future lawsuits. Public figures might think twice before seeking blanket protection orders for phone records or communications that predate the actual cause of action by months or years. Meanwhile, fans and critics are left to speculate about the bigger picture. Is the fairy tale marriage of Lively and Reynolds just another Hollywood illusion? Could it be that we've only seen the curated version of their lives, while something more complicated lurks underneath? Rumors about petty feuds, controlling behavior, or underhanded PR takedowns could leave a permanent stain. For now, the case hasn't reached its final conclusion. More depositions are on the horizon, and each new hearing has the potential to unveil details that both parties would rather keep locked away. The entire industry is watching with bated breath, because in a place where image is currency, a single leak can send fortunes tumbling. So here we stand, watching the gilded facade of a beloved Hollywood duo crack under the weight of lawsuits, sealed text messages, and behind-the-scenes whispers. For years, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds projected an image that felt untouchable, like the prom king and queen of Tinseltown. Now, that narrative is in danger of being overshadowed by allegations of hush-hush protective orders, broad subpoenas, and PR power plays. Is everything simply a matter of show business strategy? Or have we just begun to see the real personalities behind the cinematic smiles? As Justin Baldoni's countersuit drags on, the biggest question remains. Will the truth come out in full, or will Hollywood's formidable legal and PR machinery keep it hidden? In a world where public perception can make or break a celebrity brand, the quest for transparency can sometimes be the most threatening force of all. Perhaps the darkest lesson here is that no one truly knows how much effort goes into preserving an image until it starts to crumble. Maybe this is just the tip of the iceberg, and as the courts edge closer to a final judgment, the revelations might become even more mind-bending. What's undeniable is that a lawsuit at this scale won't end quietly. The powerful figures caught in its spotlight might move heaven and earth to silence dissent, or they might risk it all in search of vindication. Either way, the fallout could reshape how Hollywood's legal battles are fought. One final thought all lingers. If Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, revered by millions, can find themselves mired in a scandal like this, perhaps the world of stardom isn't as shiny and flawless as it appears. Maybe, just maybe, we're witnessing the moment when star power collides with harsh reality, exposing the hidden cracks in a system that's spent decades perfecting the art of illusion. And so we wait. More revelations will surface, fresh testimony may shift perspectives, and the public's curiosity will only grow. By the time all is said and done, this case could stand as a cautionary tale for anyone who thinks Hollywood is all glitz and no grit. Because behind those red carpet smiles and glossy magazine spreads, an entirely different story is unfolding. One that could forever change how we see the power couple we thought we knew.